After Leigh moved back to Minneapolis-St. Paul in the late 1950s, he worked for a number of radio stations, including WLOL, WCCO, KSTP, KQRS, and KSJN. Our next interview is with clarinetist and bandleader Woody Herman on Leigh Kamman's KSTP Jazz Corner Party Line.
Woody Herman is on the Jazz Corner Party Line. Woodrow Charles Woody Herman, are you there?
Yes, I am, Leigh. How are you?
Fine. It's a long time since we've been talking together. I'm sure there are at least 10 years between here and the last time.
Well, it's a good thing we got together now.
I should say so. You've been covering everything from country clubs to one-nighters, I know.
Yeah,
And you're herding around the fourth herd.
Well, it's kind of an extension of the third. Sometimes they call it the fourth, but actually it's still an extension of the third.
Well, now you might just give us a little bit of the lineage and how this works. Actually, it started with a band that played the blues, didn't it?
Yeah, we had that band for a number of years, and then along about 44, I guess it was, we organized the first herd, and that lasted through until the end of 46. The second herd was started the latter part of 47 and lasted until about 50. And the first herd started all along about 1951, and it's been in action, the third herd, I should say, ever since.
Well, actually, these bands stand for important soloists and, mighty creative people, including yourself. For example, in that first herd, such names as, you call them off.
Well, there were some pretty great guys, people like Bill Harris, although he was a member of all three herds, and I guess we shouldn't even include him in just being a member of one. But there were people like Flip Phillips, Chubby Jackson, Pete Condoli, Conrad Gazzo, Sonny Berman, Billy Bauer, Ralph Burns, Davy Tuff, and later Don Lamont. And I guess I can go on for a little bit more.
Well, now the second herd takes in some other outstanding musicians, too.
Yeah, well, it was made up of people like the Brothers, which included Zoot Sims, Herbie Stewart in the beginning, and Stan Getz, and Sir Shalhoff. And Sam Meritz was always the lead alto player in that, in both the first and second herds. And that band included Earl Swope and also Bill Harris. And then in the trumpets we had people like Ernie Royal, Marky Markowitz, Shorty Rogers. I'm hung for the moment.
Well, I'm sure that you have so many names to remember, and it covers so many areas of fine solo work as well as interesting personalities. As a leader, if I mention, several key words to you like this, if I mention to you, say, Gus Arnheim, what do you say?
Well, he was a very wonderful man, and it was a distinct pleasure having been a member of his band, even though it was for a very short time. I did a theater tour with Gus. And actually, I didn't play in the band in the section or anything. I just did a couple tunes on my own. I was, my former vaudeville background, I guess, made me a single-o on occasion.
The Isom Jones band, of course, brings up another interesting thought or two.
Well, that was the last band that I was a member of prior to starting the first Herman group. And the first band we started was along about the end of 1936 when Isham decided to retire.
Well, now if I mention to you jazz festivals, what do you say?
Well, I think that one of the best is Monterey, and I'm sure that there'll be others that are also equally impressive. I recently enjoyed doing the one at Madison Square Garden that the Daily News sponsored in New York, and also enjoyed doing the Boston Arts Festival recently.
And along with the thoughts on jazz festivals, do any of them relate to circuses in any way, shape, or form?
Oh, on occasion, I guess. We haven't been subjected to those groupings, though, so I guess I'm really not a good person to ask that question.
Oh, seriously, Woody, what hopes do you have for the organizations of bands and their tours and their reception with audiences? Is there a new audience growing for them?
Well, I think so. In other words, the backbone of what's left of the band business, the backbone of our dates are still the colleges, and after all, this is the grouping that made the bands happen the first time around. And there seems to be a definite interest there, plus the fact that we have a worldwide thing going for some of us, and it's kept us alive and and kept us feeling that we were of some import, because when we visit other lands and other countries, we find that there's a tremendous amount of interest.
Along that line, Woody, certainly jazz is an international language in every sense of the word. And to what countries seem to produce the most interesting jazz in your mind?
Well, I think that probably the Scandinavian countries have produced some very good talents, outstanding talents. And I think England now is probably one of the more productive countries as far as the modern-day jazz musicians are concerned.
I can think of soloists like Kenny Graham and the Johnny Dankworth Band, as well as Ted Heath and so many others in the New Orleans clubs of Great Britain, which are a lot of fun.
That's right.
Well, one other thought along this line, you've organized an extension of the Third Herd, and certainly there are important young men in that band, and maybe you'd just like to point out for some of the people who will be seeing and hearing you in the month of July who those men are.
We have some very, I think, great budding talents in the band. As a matter of fact, this is one of the happiest groups that I've had in a couple of 3 seasons. And it includes people like Jimmy Campbell on drums and Jimmy Gwynn in the trombone section, who does a great deal of the soloing, and Rolf Erickson in the trumpet section, along with Bill Chase, our lead trumpeter, and Bill Berry, another great jazz player. In the saxophone department, we have people like Don Lanfear and Jimmy Mosier on baritone, and I think it makes for a very exciting band.
It certainly sounds it, because I've just caught a little bit of it off the phone here. And when you mention Rolf Erickson, that gives you a completely international picture, because he was one of the Swedish Estrad Poll winners.
That's right.
Well, Woodrow, you're very gracious to take time off a busy night, and one-nighters are rather trying sometimes. Thanks for your goodwill.
Thank you, Leigh.